Good morning and aloha. My name is Jean Brokish, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the First Unitarian Church of Honolulu. For those of you who are technology savvy and you may be on Facebook or Twitter, we encourage you to share with your friends that you are here at church, and then everyone is encouraged to put their phones and electronic gadgets onto worship mode this morning. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we join together every week, bound not by a creed or dogma. Instead, we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, how we treat each other, how we talk to each other, and how we hear each other matters. We join together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. If you believe that every member of the human ohana deserves and has the right to be loved, then this is the place for you. And while you're here, you are invited to be engaged with your whole spirit. There are many ways to get involved. Some of them are mentioned in the insert to your order of service, including an upcoming party and the opportunity to plan that party, I believe, to celebrate the years of service from Karen Velasic, our music director, who will be retiring in July. An opportunity to work with others and building your own theology, as well as important deadline information for the newsletter if you have something to share with the congregation. It's today at noon, by the way. And in the spirit of aloha, I extend a special welcome to members of our Interfaith Ohana who are joining us from Waianae in Kanenuiakea. Kumu Glen Kila is with us, Chris Oliveira, and Keoki Williams. Welcome. We also welcome special musical guest, Sam Keli'i Ho'omalu, and we look forward to celebrating with all of you. And today, during this service, we also welcome new members into our ohana. We will be introducing new members later in the service. And finally, I'd like to extend aloha to any guests or first-time visitors.
Do remain seated. We have a wonderful treat for you. Come, Sam. This is my wonderful son-in-law, Sam Keli'i Ho'omalu. And instead of the song, we have a special song that he's going to do, Koke'e.
Ku'ulei aloha te I ka uka ili iu I ko ke ua I te au I ka noe oh ai o ka la Goodbye. Thank you.
Mahalo. Mahalo. Each morning we begin our service by lighting the chalice as a symbol of this sacred space and the opportunity to focus our intentions together. Let's join our voices together while Steve lights the chalice. We light this chalice with the embers of compassion. We light this chalice with the torch of justice. We light this chalice with the radiance of joy.
How about a story? Once upon a time, there were two wise children who decided they wanted to know what they were. What are we? Who are we? Well, they thought, maybe we're Earth. I mean, look at all the Earth elements in our bodies. Is Earth who we are? Then they thought, well, these bodies come and go, and they change every minute in between times. Yes, Earth is involved, but we really just borrow these Earth elements. They pass through us all our lives. No, Earth is not really who we are. Well, they thought, maybe we're water. We're mostly water, after all, and life is not possible without water. Is water who we are? Well, then they thought, yeah, water comes and goes and changes even faster than Earth. Yes, water is involved, but we just borrow water, you know, in one end, out the other, all day long. Water is passing through us all the time, okay? No, water is not really who we are, okay? Well, they thought, maybe we're energy. E equals mc squared, after all, it's all energy, all the way down. Is energy who we are? Then they thought, well, energy comes and goes and changes even faster than water. Energy is involved, yes, but we borrow and transform energy minute to minute. Energy is passing through us all our lives without being created or destroyed. So no, energy is not really who we are. Well, they thought maybe we're mind. After all, who is it that keeps asking all these weird questions? Is mind who we are? Well, then they thought, well, mind comes and goes and changes just as fast as energy. Mind is involved, yes, but mind arises and fades and contradicts itself minute to minute. No, mind finally is not who we are either. Well, thought the two wise children, this is more challenging than we first supposed. Who are we anyway? Maybe we better just keep hiking with Uncle Glen and Uncle Chris, and maybe we better just stay in school. The end.
We can go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth before you. There'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. All the trees of the
Hi, good morning. My name is Janice Davis from the membership team, and it's my great joy this morning to welcome 6 new members as an integral part of our spiritual family. I open this morning with a passage from Gia Jones from the UU Church in Mission Viejo, California. What is this church? It is not the building, except to the extent that we have chosen it and made it ours and adorned it with the fruits of our time, treasures, and talent. It is not the minister, except to the extent that we have called upon him to inspire and guide our spiritual lives. It is not the music, except to the extent that we make it when we blend our voices together to produce sounds lovelier than any one of us could make on our own. It is not even the beliefs, for we, Unitarian Universalists, have no one single unifying belief, only the combined beliefs of each one of us. This church is the people. Without you, without me, this church is nothing. It does not exist. Buildings may fall down, ministers may retire, music may go out of tune, and beliefs may falter. No matter. We are this church. Without us, it is nothing. But with us, it can be anything. Will the following new members please come forward? Dan and Lee Curran, Clement Smith, Leslie Horn, and her daughter Sarah Duvall, and Colleen Finnegan, each of the new members has written a short biography to share with you this morning to tell you a little bit about what led them to make this commitment to our congregation. Dan and Lee. Did you step? Oh, okay, you have been laid. Okay. Dan was born in Glendora, California, the youngest of 8 kids to an Irish Catholic family. Lee was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She says, go Steelers, and grew up in Ohio and Michigan. They both grew up attending church but fell away during their college years. They met as Peace Corps volunteers in Nepal, and although they hadn't been attending church for several years, they still felt somewhat connected to the spirituality in a place where Hindu and Buddhist faiths permeate all aspects of society. After completing their Peace Corps service, they were married by a Unitarian minister in Eureka, California. Dan was a cradle Catholic, and Lee, not identifying strongly with any religion, Lee officially became a Catholic, and they raised their son a Catholic for several years. Dan was losing his religion, as the REM song goes, she says, and Lee became totally disillusioned with the Catholic Church, so they stopped going to church completely for several years. It wasn't until this past December when they saw an article about the Celtic waves coming to the First Unitarian Church of Honolulu that they have become a part of the congregation. They say it sounds trite, but it really felt like coming home. The church suits Dan's atheist leanings and Lee's somewhat nebulous spiritual leanings. it appeals to both of their humanistic and liberal sensibilities. They say they are thrilled to be joining this church and are grateful for your welcoming spirit. Okay. Clement Smith. Put my glasses back on. Clement was born in Philadelphia. He served in the Navy and was stationed in Oahu in 1975, returned in 2012, and is here for good. Clement has a daughter in her first year of college who he loves very much and is very proud of. He became a UU member in 2001 as a result of insight gained on a personal journey of solidarity from Selma to Montgomery in 1994. He eventually learned that many of his lifetime heroes were Unitarians or Universalists. A graphic and industrial artist and designer and marketing consultant, Clement has traveled approximately to 25 countries for multiple and extended periods of times. He always includes archaeological sites. His lifelong hobby, interest, passion of archaeology and anthropology are currently coming to the forefront. He is not sure where it will take him, but he is progressing steadily, knowing that it will. Welcome, Clement. Leslie Horn and her daughter Sarah Naval. Leslie grew up in a home where Christmas and Easter were the most spectacular days of the year, yet her family never set foot inside a church. While this was a lot of fun, it didn't ease her questioning mind, and at the age of 12, she began walking by herself to the church closest to her home. She attended this Lutheran church for many years, but by the time she became in her late teens, she really no longer identified as a Christian. She simply didn't believe that there was only one spiritual path. Over the next 20 years, Leslie came to love a little about all religions. She identified as an agnostic, but this was a rather lonely place to be. It was her daughter's questions about spirituality that led her to the First Unitarian Church of Honolulu. She says the moment she walked through these doors, she knew she had finally found her spiritual home. Welcome, Leslie. Sarah. Sarah was born in Los Angeles, California, and moved to Hawaii when she was 7. She was never raised with a religion, which left her a little confused about what to believe, because growing up, she always had friends of all different religions. About halfway through her freshman year at Lani, thank you, school, she and her mom decided that it would be best for both of them to start going to church. She was nervous at first because she didn't think there would be a church that had a lot of the same views that she had about social justice and things like that. She found the Unitarian Church to be a perfect fit. Now she is proud to call herself a member of the First Unitarian Church of Honolulu. Welcome, Sarah. Colleen Finnegan. Colleen lived in Hawaii as a child and graduated from La Pietra Hawaii School for Girls. She went to college and attended medical school in Massachusetts. She was fortunate to be able to marry Lacey Johnson when same-sex marriage became legal in Massachusetts. They adopted 2 children and were active in the Unitarian Society of Northampton, Massachusetts. Their children went through religious education and coming-of-age programs there. They moved back to Hawaii in 2011 and are grateful to be living in Kaneohe and look forward to becoming a growing part and contributing members of the Unitarian Universalist community. Welcome, Colleen.
Well, new members, we're so grateful to each one of you that, is this on? Yeah. It is, yeah? That you found your way here and that you have decided to make a commitment to this community of fellow seekers to travel with you on your life journey. We, the members of this congregation, welcome you as fellow passengers on this spiritual journey. We pledge to you our acceptance, our support, and our friendship on your quest. We hope as members of this church you'll allow yourselves to know and to be known, to minister and to be ministered unto, to love and to be loved by this wonderful, sometimes quirky congregation. Will the congregation please rise in body or in spirit as you're able and join together in saying this affirmation. We unite in the bonds of fellowship and love to cultivate reverence, to promote spiritual growth and ethical commitment, to minister to each other's needs and to those of humanity, to celebrate the sacred moments of life's passage, and to honor the holiness at the heart of being. And our congregation says to this community, or to the new people, I should say, we welcome you to this community with all our hearts.
What lies beyond the horizon? Some people know because they have been there. But can it be that some know who have not been there? Their knowing is a vision, a possibility of invention, of innovation that leads forward. It leads beyond where we are now. May the ancient wisdom and ritual today merge with the scientific, the rational, the liberating, to give us a new vision of meaning and value, of compassion and love, of justice and action. Mahalo nui akua, mahalo nui ohana.
te alahala ia mai I te vai vai lelea ohi I lawe Opuna ke alahala ia mai I ka vai vai lelea ohi I lawe Haina ia mai ana ka puana Kumaka ka I ke nai ohi I lawe Haina ia mai ana ka puana Kumaka ka I ke nai ohi I lawe Ohi I lawe Ohi I lawe Ohi I lawe
And each week, as our Ohana gathers together, we come to put our hearts and our spirits together with one another in an event that we call the Book of Life. Knowing that as we journey through life and through our spiritual path, we sometimes encounter obstacles along the way, and we sometimes encounter sorrows and concerns that affect us on a deep level. And this morning, there hasn't really been any new concerns that have been mentioned in the Book of Life, but I'm sure some of you have people that you're thinking about this morning. So as my hand moves across the sanctuary, I invite you to name those people out loud.
The war widows.
My friend Jim.
Whether these names are spoken aloud or they remain silent in the depths of our hearts, we bring their presence into the sacred space, acknowledging the suffering that takes place in our lives. And at the same time, we know that the other side of the equation are the joys that we celebrate in life. And there's quite a few of those this morning, including one from Dennis, our pianist, who is rejoicing at his oldest son, Aaron's engagement in Venice, Italy, of all places. And we also hold Jenna Corsi in our hearts as she prepares to leave on Wednesday for 6 weeks of studying and hiking in Peru. She'll also be visiting Mexico, Bolivia, and Guatemala. So she's feeling a little anxious about leaving the whole family behind. I'm sure you are not looking forward to leaving them at all, but excited for the adventure and opportunity to work and learn her Spanish. So by the time she comes back to us as a worship associate, our whole service will be in Spanish. And there's a indication here that after Burbank, 8 women and 5 dogs eating, drinking, talking, and laughing, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Big Sur, and Yosemite, Marie Ann is so happy to finally be home. So welcome home, as well as Leah. And finally, the Larson family reports a joy that Caitlin Larson has graduated from high school and is back on island attending Hawaii Pacific University this coming fall. And there are a couple of other joys, I believe, that we have. One including the events that took place on Wednesday, with the fact that the Destruction of Marriage Act, otherwise known as DOMA, is now POW, as the sign indicates. So we want to thank the 9 members of this congregation who boldly had a public witness event at the state capitol for justice, including Kim Koko Iwamoto and others. And the other joy I heard someone mention earlier is with a woman by the name of Wendy Davis, who had the chutzpah and the courage to make sure that reproductive justice is won in Texas. So we rejoice in that, and we know that the struggle is far from over. So we continue to lift up the state of Texas and all the other states that, well, we won't go there. All right, so if you have other joys that you would like to lift up this morning, my hand will be moving across the sanctuary one more time, so I invite you to name just the names this morning, please. For these wonderful beings who bring so much joy and energy and fulfillment to our lives, we come together as a beloved community to share our joy with one another. And so once more, I invite you to lift up your left hand, symbolizing the suffering and the pain that is going on in our world, as well as your right hand, symbolizing the joy. Knowing that we do not have to carry the load all by ourselves, because when our hands come together, our spirits come together, and our hearts come together to share in one another's joys and suffering. And as we bow to one another, we bow to the spirit within each of us. We bow to the inherent worth and dignity that we have. And we exhibit compassion in this way, and we exhibit loving kindness in everything that we do. And as our hands are released, we release this moment in our life, knowing that other moments will come, bringing more joys and more sorrows. And in the spirit, I invite you to continue in this moment of mindfulness. Continue to send your loving kindness to all beings who ever lived, who currently live, and who will live. And let's take this moment to close our eyes, connect our feet to the ground, to this Aina that supports us, who cares for us, and loves us. And in this moment, may we draw from the mana, from the spiritual energy that we give to one another. More than just E equals MC squared, we know that this theory of relativity is really a theory about relationships and the deep ways that we are connected with one another.
Our lives are streams of continual choices. We can choose to live in small, isolated spaces, uncomfortably filled with petty problems, or we can choose to live in generous, connected spaces, mindfully filled with worthy opportunities. We are aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life. We are aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression. We are aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others. We are aware that we will suffer in life to the same degree that we wish things were different.
Aloha kahu, aloha ohana. My name is Glen Kila, and I am a koamana and kupaka'aina of Waianae, lineal descendant of the Aboriginal families. We all know that it takes a village to raise a child. But what happens when the village is dying from homelessness, poverty, drugs, and despair? It takes a marae, a village learning center, and church, First Unitarian, to rebuild the spirit of aloha, health, and well-being, education, and hope. 2 canoes were launched many years ago, fighting for justice and care for its land and people. 2 canoes from different places of departure followed the same navigational star of Pono, righteousness, believing that there is a home where people can live in harmony, lokahi, with akua, with the land and people. Through a miracle, the canoes met and decided to lash its single canoes to a great double hull, knowing that building a pora platform on its deck, more children, more families can be saved and taken out of the ocean of poverty. Now this double hull canoe has launched as one family with one vision of aloha keakua, love for God, aloha ike kahi, love for one another, aloha aina, love for the land. Last month, the United Family visited the Wahipana sacred sites of our ancestors and enjoyed the rains of its land. Nourished, the United Family has raised the children of the suffering village with aloha, with love, education, and hope. We were taught that God is love, and where there is love, there is God. In this congregation, in our marae, there is lots of love and aloha. Our pora, our platform now extends from the Ko'olau here in Nu'uanu to the Mauna Lahi to the Waianae coast. So more and more of our families can be saved through the efforts of this congregation. Mahalo, Ohana, for loving our children, for loving our aina, and for loving one another. Akua lako, God provides. Aloha. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Glen. And indeed, as I reflect back on this journey so far, it has been a truly amazing one. And to think that when I was called to be your minister, just August of 2011, one of the first things that our district executive at the time asked me to do was to come up with a vision. And I just looked at him and I said, how am I supposed to come up with a vision? I've barely been in this congregation for a month, and yet I'm supposed to know where we're supposed to be going, where this canoe is supposed to end up? That's an impossibility. But then again, I started hearing these voices in my head. And I know that they're probably not just talking to me. And you're just jealous because the voices in my head are talking to me and not you? Is that how the saying goes? I don't remember. But anyway, I started hearing these voices in my head that what if the First Unitarian Church of Honolulu were to become a multi kind of canoe? Now, what the hell is a multi kind of a canoe? You know, who's ever heard of such a thing? Well, what if here in this place we were to be intentional about how we grow? Because after all, throughout the month of June, we've been talking about spiritual growth. But we don't want to grow just for growth's sakes. We want to have a direction to our growth. Just like we don't want to get on a canoe just for a leisurely row around the bay or anything like that. We want to have a sense of direction. We want to have a sense of purpose. And so one of the multi-visions that I had, that I shared with you at that time, I don't know if any of you recall the fancy PowerPoint presentation I had or not. A couple of you nodded your head. That's the right answer to have. Anyway, one of the vision is, what would it mean for this congregation to become multicultural? After all, that's been the yearning that I've heard for years, that we want to honor the land that we stand on, and we want to honor the fact that Hawaii is one of the most diverse places in the United States of America. And so how do we become more cultural other than just talking about it? And how do we not wait and while we sit on our chairs thinking, one of these days, somebody's going to walk through our doors and boom, we are going to become more multicultural. And so I thought, well, that hasn't worked yet. So are there other ways that we could engage in the community? Are there other ways that we could actually get out there and be where people are and listen to what their heart's deepest yearnings are and what some of the issues that they're facing are? And so Kumu Glen mentioned a miracle, and indeed it was nothing short of a miracle when Jean Parola introduced Steve Lose, the chair of our Social Justice Council, to Keoki Williams. And they started brainstorming. As Karen always says, a cunning plan was formed. Whoa, whoa. So what if we held a joint worship service together? Fifth Sundays are, after all, the Social Justice Council Sundays. What if we had an opportunity for Kanenuiakea, this group that I'm sure none of us have even heard of in the past, let alone know how to pronounce? What if we were to invite them to come worship with us? And indeed, not only did we worship together that day, but 100 of you signed a petition stating that sacred land that belonged to the indigenous people of the Hawaiian Kingdom ought to stay with them and not be subsumed by the federal government or otherwise, right? And so we were very thrilled about how that service went, and we thought, we can't stop now. Now that we built this Pora Pora, how can we continue in this relationship? And so we brought it back to our denomination, and we brought it back to the General Assembly back in 2012, June of 2012. We said, we're going to propose a resolution since our denomination is repudiating the doctrine of discovery, this doctrine that says that European Christians have a right to colonize and conquer whoever they want to. We're saying that that's just not pono. But how do we bring in where we are? Because obviously we're not a part of North America, and we're not talking about American Indians here. And so we went back to Kumu Glen and to Kanenuiakea, and we said, what kind of language would you like us to introduce? Because we're here to support you. We're not here to tell you what to do, but we're here to listen and to find out how we could be of service and be of help. And so they suggested this term of indigenous people of the Hawaiian Kingdom. And Carla and I were there at GA, and we said, you know, let's pass this resolution, but let's make sure that we have the proper language and terminology down. You remember this moment? Am I the only one who's, okay, good. Can I get an amen to that? And so after that, our relationship grew even deeper. And then in September, we had another joint worship service, and we also had an opportunity to actually go out to visit the marae. And 60 of you, 60 members of this congregation, broke bread with the marae, and we visited these sacred sites. So it wasn't just a theoretical thing of, yeah, there are these sacred sites out there, but we actually got to hear the story of just how sacred these sites were. And we too learned a new language. We learned how to chant Eho Mai in this congregation. And we learned how to sing Hawaii Aloha. And we learned how to kick butt with Spirit of Life in Hawaiian. Yeah? Who knew that UUs can sing? And so we went deeper, and we tried to blur the line between us and them. No longer is it about us doing the right thing of going out there somewhere, but it's us going out to be with our ohana. Because indeed, as our canoes came together, as those planks joined with one another, we knew that we were onto something. Because you know what? It's not always a peachy ride. Sometimes we encounter waves along the way. And sometimes we encounter sharks along the way. Doo-doo, doo-doo. Can I get a Jaws? Yes, scary sharks, similar to my hairdo. This is like a shark fin, you know. So we encountered the sharks of poverty. We encountered the waves of drug addiction. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to go out to the Waianae Coast, but when I've been out there, I try to pay attention to the road signs along the way, not just to make sure that I'm not lost or I haven't passed where I'm supposed to go, but the markers such as KFC, such as Jack in the Box, such as McDonald's. What do those markers tell about what kind of marketing exists in this community and what kind of food and diet is being sold to this community? Is it one of health and wholeness? Or is it one where, you know, no wonder there's a high case of diabetes and obesity out on the Waianae Coast? So if what we're eating isn't proper, then that's problematic. If this community is unhealthy, all our communities are unhealthy. And so the question became, how do we tackle these waves together? How do we make sure that we avoid the sharks together? And I'm not just talking about external factors here. We all know well too well that there are also internal struggles that get in the way. This internal struggle of anger, for example, that if kept unwatched, anger could actually consume us. And yes, I know there are lots to be angry about. Stolen land, stolen government, all those are stuff to be angry about. But how do we not let our anger consume us? And how do we stick with the spiritual principles of compassion and loving kindness every step of our way? And you know what else is consuming us these days that's an internal struggle? A sense of apathy. Ever notice that a lot of people just plain old don't care? They don't know, they don't want to know, they don't care about these issues. And that will only lead to furthering the division in our community, and that'll further the infighting that's going on, and that'll further our canoes from being joined together. And so now that we found ourselves in this place of having the canoes joined together, what we got to figure out moving forward is how to actually row together, all right? To make sure that we're not rowing backwards, because I guess canoes have a reverse gear on the ship, yeah? So we want to make sure that we're not on reverse and that we're on D, and that we are moving forward, and that we keep on rowing forward, and that we are in sync with one another, and that our actions are not counterproductive to what the other is doing. And so to that end, I'm happy to announce that the UUA, our main denomination, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, has approved a teeny tiny manini grant, but nonetheless it's a start, of $500 to help us figure out how to work on repudiating the doctrine of discovery even further. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have the keiki, the youth at Kanenuiakea, chronicle and identify the sites, the sacred sites over the years, so that we have it on record that you can't touch this land, yeah? And we're gonna try to have our youth involved with it too. So imagine the possibility of someone like Sarah and some of the other folks in our youth group be involved in this project. And imagine what would happen if they were to bring this project back to us and do something about it for our Christmas Eve service, for example. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Can I get an amen to that? I'm glad some of you are awake. And what if we were to continue on these hikes? Because I heard that about half a dozen of us joined the hike at any given point, half a dozen or more, yeah? And in fact, I heard that you all were so generous and you were so moved by this that you actually took up a collection at the end of the trip. And we collected over $500 to donate to the Marae. So give yourselves a round of applause for your generosity. And it is only through this kind of kukua that we are able to make some tangible change. It is only through this kind of collaborative relationship that we can move forward together. And mind you, it's not all just going to be about our similarities, as many similarities as we have together. But it is also about honoring the differences. And it's realizing that at some point, we're going to screw up. We're probably going to say something that's insensitive and totally out of left field that we wish we had our foot in our mouth on. Yeah? And we're going to make mistakes. So I'll have you know, though, that I've already asked for forgiveness in advance from Kumu Glen. And he's accepted my forgiveness. So those moments are going to come, but we need to trust in our relationship. We need to trust in our motivations and our intentions, that our vision really is the same here, that we are following the same star, that we have the same vision for a culture that is multi-everything, that we could experience spiritual moments together without having to change the other, and we could be in a place where we are supporting each other's work. We are no longer us versus them, but we are one canoe rowing together. So in order to symbolize this, I'm going to ask Glen to come on up again. He doesn't know that I'm going to do this. Come on up, Kumu Glen. Join me right over here. So I'm going to row to my right. If you could row to your left, that would be great. So this is a great symbolism for us rowing our canoe together. Harder, Glen. Paddle harder. E Nunulu, I Lani. May our works resonate throughout the heavens. Amama.
Cool. Aloha, everybody. My name is Christopher Oliveira with Marae Ha'akua. Today I'll be sharing closing words with you. This is a Hawaiian proverb. It goes, Ho'o maka ina lokovai nui a pau I ho'okahi kuluvai. Literally, it translates to great bodies of water start with one drop. This emphasizes the importance of the individual in the big pond of humanity. Mahalo.
And you may notice a little different in the closing words today, thanks to instruction from Uncle Chris here. You'll notice that amene, where we used to say amene at first, which basically means amen. Amana, you see amama. You see amama there? Amama signifies cycle of life, if I get this right. We give life with words. When we put forth words, we give life to things, and this life comes around and around. Amama. So, thanks to instruction from Uncle Chris here, repeat after me. Say with me these words, please. Amama, blessed be, salam, shalom, namaste, gasho.
And we join our voices together again as Steve extinguishes the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the lens of compassion, the torch of justice, or the radiance of joy. These we carry into our community until we are together again.
And now, please rise in body or spirit and join hands as we sing our song of aloha, followed by our song of peace.